Hey guys, welcome back to another Tumbler tutorial. Today we're going to be working on this V-split fall tumbler. I'm using an acrylic template from a crafty veteran, and these are, I don't want to say maybe like $10 or so. They were pretty decently cheap, and just a really easy tool to make sure you're getting a perfect triangle. They have different shapes and things like that. There's like a diamond template, there's like a really skinny V-split. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I will link her shop below. But if you don't like the measuring and cutting like me, this is just a great way to be able to throw a template down and run your X-Acto knife along the vinyl to get the perfect split. So we are going to apply this to a 24-ounce plump from the Tipsy Magnolia using the hinge method. If you don't know what that means, we are going to cut off about 1 inch of the backing of the vinyl, and we're going to hinge the sticky part to the tumbler. Once it's in place, you want to make sure it's perfectly lined along the rim or wherever you're putting it. And then when it's pressed down flat, we're going to take a squeegee and we're going to press the backing off of the vinyl while we press the vinyl to the cup. Once it's adhered, you're just going to go around and pop any air bubbles that may have shown up underneath there, making sure also that everything is completely smooth around the rim, you don't have any lifting vinyl, and then we'll go into glittering. This is personal preference. You can either leave the vinyl overlapping or you can score the seam of the tumbler where the vinyl is overlapping and then just cut off any excess with your X-Acto knife. Depending on the pattern, I do one or the other. It's usually probably more cutting it off than leaving it, but it's totally dependent upon your personal preference. So just a forewarning, I don't know what is going on with my phone. I was like gaslighting myself into thinking that I hadn't recorded, and this is 2 tumblers in a row now that I'm missing footage, and I know for sure this time that I clicked record. So I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry about that. There's a couple things that are missing when I'm applying the decal and the white glitter strip that I'm taping off right now that didn't get recorded somehow. So I'm going through all my storage on my phone. I have a whole terabyte of storage, but it's saying that it's full, which is definitely not the case. So I will be looking into that. But anyway, I digress. So I just took a 1-inch painter's tape and I lined it along the edge of the vinyl. It is absolutely crucial, if you want your points to be lined up perfectly, that you follow along the line of the vinyl perfectly. If not, if you're sloppy with it, your points when you go to line your vinyl with like the vinyl striping, they're not going to match up. So just a forewarning, be careful if you like perfection like me, or symmetry, all of those things. But the size of the vinyl is not the vinyl. The size of the tape is personal preference. So you can use bigger, smaller, whatever you want to do. You don't even have to do it at all. So we're going to epoxy that, and if you have a Tipsy Magnolia butt, you can go ahead and remove that. I would probably recommend removing it before epoxying and not forgetting like me. The glitter I'm using is Boho Chic from Rae Creations. It is a really chunky glitter, so I would recommend putting a little bit more epoxy than normal on the bottom half of your tumbler if you plan to use the epoxy method. And I would absolutely recommend using a piece of printer paper to flatten your glitter like I'm doing here, especially around that bottom edge on the Tipsy Magnolias. I want to say they're sharp. They're not really sharp, but they are more pointed than rounded, and so the glitter tends to be more pokey. It causes more epoxy layers to get it smooth, so just be mindful of that. I would be a little bit preventative in making this, I guess is the way I would say it. Just, you know, doing your part in making sure it's flat, just to lessen the bulk of the tumbler. And then if you get any little glitters that have strayed outside of your painter's tape, you can just push those back in with your X-Acto knife, and then you've got clean, crisp lines. So once that's dry, I spray sealed it, and then I went in with my glitter booty. This is going to be Briar Rose. It's a like perfect rose gold color. This is from PEACHY Glitters. And then Figgy. These are really good matches for this vinyl as well. And I'm just using UV resin. I'm going to put the like the smaller bit of epoxy in the outside. I want to say that was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 milliliters, maybe. I don't even know the measurements. I just kind of eyeball it now. And then for the rose gold in the center, it's going to be a little bit more, I would say maybe like 15 or so. But you just want it to be a smooth consistency. You don't want chunky or anything. You want it to be able to flow freely once you pour the glitter mixture into those rims. You don't want to have to like manually force it around the rim or anything. So once it's kind of a little bit runny but not too runny is what's perfect for the glitter application into the glitter booty. So we're going to apply that, and we're going to use the UV light to cure that. I put it under the UV light for probably about 15 minutes. Just so you know, if you've never used UV epoxy, the light isn't able to penetrate as well with dark colors. So right here, this figgy color, I chose to do that on the outside because it was going to be less epoxy to cure. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be uncured underneath like that top layer of epoxy, because sometimes that happens. And it was going to be able to penetrate through that rose gold better than it would the burgundy color. So that's why I chose to put the rose gold in the center. Just, I didn't want like a squishy booty or anything like that. So here is where you're seeing me put some Flynn Sisters epoxy on this tumbler, and you'll notice that the center is glittered. So this is one of the parts of the footage that I lost. So what I did, I spray sealed the tumbler like crazy because chunky glitter moves really easily. And then I put a piece of painter's tape along the vinyl and then along the glitter as well. And then I didn't spray paint it because it was already a white prepped tumbler. And then I used Chantilly from PEACHY Olive Glitters for the center portion. We're gonna go in with 2 coats of epoxy. Also backtracking, I did spray seal the Chantilly as well. But I put 2 coats of the Flynn Sisters regular setting epoxy on there. I'm going to do some sanding at the bottom just because the rim's a little bit sharper than curved, like I said. And then we're going to go in with our decals and our vinyl striping as to be 0.06 by 11.5 inches. That vinyl is from Teckwrap Craft. And then I put it on my turner and I put a coat of polyacrylic over the vinyl for both the decal section and the vinyl striping section, just to make sure it didn't lift under the epoxy, because that does tend to happen with metallics sometimes. And then once that was all sealed in, I put another coat of epoxy over it. I think I put actually 2 more coats of epoxy over it. But after the epoxy was applied, I made sure to torch the air bubbles. I do that on every layer just to make sure it's not a foggy tumbler. And then once it was smooth to the touch, this was completely finished. I forgot to mention I did put my logo tag on the bottom. That is from Mizzy's Doodles. I get a lot of questions regarding those, so I'll link that as well. And that is it for this tutorial. I'm so sorry there was a bunch of missing footage, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next weekend.